Gotta trust and believe. You got it, you got it, you got it, you got it, you got it. You got it, you got it, you got it, you got it, you got it. So let nothing hold you down. Oh, no. Nobody can stop you now. Oh, you got it.
What's up, everybody? I am Van Swan, and you are watching Conversation with Van. On today's episode, I get the opportunity to talk to three individuals who's making an impact in the education community. Not only the education community, but also with mental health and so many other areas. I'm super excited to be able to talk to them and just hear their story, their journey, their process, what made them want to get into the education field, what made them want to bring awareness to mental health and all those wonderful things. And in the climate where we are right now, it's very important that we bring awareness to that area. So starting to my right here, I have Mr. Martinez Sellers. What's up, sir?
What's going on? How are you?
Welcome. Right here in the middle, I have Mr. Danny Burke. Welcome. Please put your hands together and give it up for Mr. Dr. Piggue. Yeah, what's up, fellas?
What's wrong?
How y'all doing? Y'all all right?
Good.
All right. So where are you from?
I'm from Rialto, California.
From Rialto, California.
Born in Bellflower, but raised in Rialto.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you? Where you from?
I'm from Rialto.
So, did y'all know each other prior to this?
Like mom?
Did y'all know each
Second
other?
grade.
What? Oh, so y'all got history.
27.
Wow. Wow.
That's my road dog.
Wow.
I'm actually from Newark, Ohio.
Where that?
Wow.
That's
Watch
state?
him out, watch him out. Listen, my folk came from Detroit. We'll cut you.
What brought you to California?
Well, my parents got a divorce, and my mother wanted to put as many miles as far as she could from him. So since we couldn't make it quite to Hawaii because the Negroes couldn't swim that far, we ended up here in Southern California with my grandfather and cousins out here.
Wow, so y'all from Rialto.
Mhm.
So where did y'all do y'all schooling? Did y'all go to what did y'all
So
go?
we started-
Eisenhower?
Well, we started at Trapp Elementary, and then after Trapp Elementary, WJC Trapp,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went from there to
That's the
Cole.
name, man.
Where's the
Went from there to Cole Middle School, and then he left 8th grade year. Where'd you go?
I went to Casera Middle School.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
But then we were reunited back at Eisenhower High School in Rialto.
Ike Mob.
Ike Mob.
Aight,
Class of
okay,
04.
okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Mr. Sellers? Where you go to school at?
Went to Newark High and then transferred out here and went to Irvine High. So I was a big OC baby.
Okay, Orange County.
Orange County.
That's why you're bougie.
Hey.
We already have established relationships.
Look, now who goes to the bougie school?
Right.
I'm not in education. But I have taken education very, very serious.
Yeah.
High school, I got made fun of a lot. I got bullied because of some of my identities, specifically my queer identity, and I hated school. You know, I went from a straight A student to barely passing, and so after I graduated, I was like, "This is it. I'm done." You know, and as time went on, I started to just realize kind of what I was missing. So I would try to go back, but I was experiencing some homelessness. I was experiencing different things. And finally, once it grabbed hold, education was my life changer. That was really what taught me everything I needed to know, which was oddly enough from everything I experienced in life. It taught me what I needed to understand, how to navigate society, how to navigate whiteness, how to navigate blackness, how to navigate institutions. And so for me, that's where my education journey really started. And I went for high school to an AA, to a BA, and now on a master's program. Very much so social psychology based from a business perspective. But nonetheless, the goal is to get my PhD and actually, I guess, move into education once I retire. But we're there.
Yeah, so you said that you're not in the field of education. So explain exactly what field are you in?
Okay, so my AA was sociology and psychology, which was the most empowering part of my life. I actually started in human services, counseling for alcohol and drugs.
Okay.
But I felt super constricted, and I decided to branch off, and that's where I got sociology and psychology. I then applied to 3 schools. I applied to Cal State San Bernardino, to University of Redlands, and to Pitzer College. Pitzer College is one of the Ivy Leagues of the West for the Claremont colleges. 13% acceptance rate, and I got accepted to Pitzer.
Yeah.
Wow, congrats.
And the story was that I took up organizational studies, which is a study of social psychology, economics, and then recently accepted an offer to Claremont Graduate University Drucker School of Management for an MBA program with a $24,000 fellowship to apply to the school.
Come on now.
Man, he already got
Right.
Yes.
Wow.
Can you take some of my student loans?
At Pitzer with that acceptance, it was a full ride. So I haven't paid not $1 at Pitzer College. And I think that's something when we talk about education, we don't talk enough about as Black folk. There are institutions out there that are looking for merit-based affirmative action. I want to say, it's not just affirmative action. They're looking at the qualifications that you've been able to acquire and say you're beating people out based off your merit, not based off of wanting to give you just a leg up. And that's what Pitzer provided me through this new resource program, where it's for non-traditional students, students who didn't go straight from high school into college. It's for you went and experienced life afterwards. I happen to go through the military and other things in my part of life. But between the military and Pitzer's scholarship, they $56,000 a year is the tuition, and all of this covered.
All of it is covered. Did you hear that? Did y'all hear that? He said all of it is covered.
It doesn't matter when. The one thing I tell people about, they never ask you when you got your degree. They never ask you how long it took you to get your degree. And they don't even ask you where you got it from. The only thing, do you have one? Yeah. Okay.
So, going back to your question of what caused me to get into the field of education, I have a couple of different hats. So on one end, I'm trained as a therapist. So I have a degree in marriage and family therapy, and then on another end, I have a credential in school counseling. So for that part of it started back when I was a kid, and I used to listen to people talk. My mom used to always laugh. My mom and my uncle used to always laugh, and people would talk, and I would say, yeah, go with that. And ever since then, they said, oh, he's going to be a therapist or something. So when I got to high school, I did 1 quarter because I was lazy. I did 1 quarter of homeschool. And my best friend and I, we would turn our homework in on Thursday, pick up our new homework, do it the same day, and have 7 days off. So homeschool for us was very easy. So my counselor told me, that was my 10th grade year, he said, the universities will never look at you. That the universities will never look at you. And I believed him. And I said, okay. I made good grades in high school. And I said, okay. And 12th grade year, there was a class, Miss Taylor's class. All the kids ditched in her class, a Black woman from Brooklyn. And she would cuss those kids out. But she said, baby, she said, you can stay because you don't talk a lot. So her class was doing a project. My best friend was in that class. And she said, what are you doing after high school? I said, I guess I'll just go to community college, which nothing's wrong with community college. But I'm the youngest of 5, and 3 of my 4 siblings, they all graduated high school, but they went to community college and never finished. So I thought that I would follow that same path. So this woman who wasn't even my teacher, she said, baby, what are you doing after high school? I said, I'm just going to go to community college. Well, what's your grades like? So I showed her, and she said, you're good enough to go to Cal State. And so the Cal State recruiter was there that week. She said, I'm going to pull you out and get you. Not my teacher. Hooked me up with this guy, the counselor recruiter from Cal State, went to Cal State, graduated with a bachelor's in psychology. The reason why I did psychology was because I was in peer counseling in my 12th grade year. And every Friday we had this thing called group. I have never been to therapy. I don't even know what group is. I just knew I liked peer counseling. And so my teacher told me that he got his bachelor's in psychology. And so that's why I went to Cal State and got that. So as an undergraduate student, it's not about being the best. It's not about like when you finish, but did you finish? And so I was a horrible undergraduate student, horrible. And I think I left Cal State with a 2.556 GPA. Now, the people in the psychology and social work department said, oh, we will never look at you for a master's. Same thing the high school people told me. I said, by then I was smart enough to know. I said, okay. So they said, go look at different private colleges, universities. So I looked at Loma Linda, and Loma Linda took a chance on me. And my very first quarter, I just didn't get the concepts of therapy and theory and practice. I didn't get it my very first quarter. And so I was going to go back to Cal State for an MBA. And at the end of the quarter, I had straight A's. I said, maybe I can do this. And so that's why I pursued that. And then because of my school counselor telling me what he told me, after I finished my master's, I said, I'm going to stay another 2 years for for my credential. So I stayed at Loma Linda for another 2 years because if that white counselor told me,
Right.
you're never going to make it,
Right.
how many other students did he tell that?
Right.
So that's why I became a counselor. They were laying counselors off, pink slipping them left and right. So I said, these student loans are going to go back into deferment. I might as well go back to school. So I went back to school and got my doctorate.
Right.
I went back to school and got my doctorate for counseling psychology. So now I'm waiting for the Board of the Board of Psychology to give me my psychology number so I can start practicing as a psychologist.
Give a slight plug and tell them to hurry up in case they watch.
Please hurry up and give me my psych assistant number so I can start practicing psychology. I just emailed you guys.
Come on,
As I grow and I learn more in my field, I'm looking at more things like social justice and even the climate that we're in today. I think more than ever we need psychologists, male psychologists, and psychologists of color, black men.
Right.
So,
Right.
What about you? Tell me about your journey. What line of work are you in your process and all that good stuff?
Well, I am a marriage and family therapist, and my process was way different. I actually ended back in the therapy field totally by accident. I always knew I wanted to be an attorney. So since I was about going in sixth grade, attorney. And said I was going to go to Stanford. And so got out here to California after my parents divorced and got out here. So I was kind of a traumatic time in my life. So I don't remember anyone from my high school years here in California. I didn't realize that until I was in my mid-30s that I was in such a traumatic state. That now everyone from Ohio, I remember all of them. Don't remember anyone from high school from here in California. And everyone I went to school with at UC Berkeley, I remember them. So I said I was thought I was going to Stanford, but went to a UC Berkeley fair, like they have college fair. Fell in love with the campus and everything. And I wanted to get away so I could start my own life. So I graduated on a Wednesday. And on Friday, I was on a plane going to summer school at Berkeley so I could just start reinventing myself with that. Started off liking psychology because I had met a mentor who was a psychologist. And I wanted to be like her. Got in the psychology department, I was like, black folk don't act like that. That's not, and then, Mr. Sellers, I thought, yeah. I wrote the book. I'm like, touche, and went over to legal studies. And then went there, graduated from UC Berkeley, went into law school, ran out of money, and they literally pulled me out of class. I said, they're kicking me out, y'all. I ain't got no more money. Tuition can't get paid. My father was supposed to send me the money, and he didn't send it.
Not in class.
So I was that wrapped up my legal studies years. But I went to a little depression because I felt like my dream had been deflated with that. And then I had my daughter at the time, and then got into ministry. Went and got a master's in theological studies. Now, I love what you say because and I say that because it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get your degree. No one knows it took me 7 years to get that degree. Wow. And then went to work for full time. Now you make me get a little too personal. Went to work for a full time in ministry. The pastor and I fell out, and he gave me my check and said, "You're no longer employed." And from there, because you work for a church, churches don't pay into unemployment. So I could not get any unemployment. So I went from making like $65,000 a year and went all the way back down to making $20 a year, $20 an hour, because no one would recognize my master's in theology. So I had to go back to a BA level job with a mortgage, 2 kids, car notes, and a failing marriage. A friend of mine from another church, we were just talking, he goes, I got this job available. It's doing some behavioral science wraparound. I don't know what that is. He's like, look, do you need a job? I'm like, I need a job. Went in there, and from there, long story short, went back and got my master's in marriage and family therapy, and then became a therapist.
Wow. To see black people, black men, minorities, like, doing great things, that's important to see because we don't see that all the time. We
right.
see the negative stuff. We see the stereotypes. We see what you're not going to be according to this or that. It's like, come on, there's some people who's out there who are doing great things. And a lot of times it comes from trauma or it comes from whatever, but turning that negative into a positive situation is even a testament all in itself. So the fact that you guys are doing what you guys are doing, hats off to all three of you, seriously.
But I think the common thread is you were hurting.
Yeah,
No time I was hurting. You were told you couldn't do it. So we had all these.
I was dealing with church stuff too, and they hurt me in church. And I said, you know what? When I started doing therapy, and this might go into other conversations, but I felt like I was actually doing what I was called to do because what I wanted to do in church, I really couldn't do it. But I was meeting some amazing people that had some issues that they just need to work through in therapy.
Right.
So it's like a form of ministry.
I felt like I was doing another form of ministry, doing what I was called to do.
It becomes your calling.
Yes.
You just said it does.
How important do you think it is to see a therapist or to have counseling if you've gone through trauma or had some sort of crazy experience? How important do you think it is?
Just existing in life is a trauma.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you've been through a trauma. Life is a trauma, so it don't matter. Therapy is a need, regardless.
But I think we have to change the dialogue about how we perceive therapy. Because we think therapy is traditionally for the white, rich, crazy folk. And especially when we talk about black men. One, as a black male therapist, Steve and I represent 1% across the whole country. 1% of black men are therapists. So one, you have to search for us. The beauty of this whole COVID thing, it opened up telemedicine. And so now you can choose your therapist, and the insurance companies have to pay it in that regard. So that's the beauty of it. But then if you add black women on there, now black men and black women still only represent maybe 4 or 5% at most of the whole therapy field. So it's hard to trust someone. Then we have to go into systemically how the medical system has not been well for us as black men. Then we won't even go into, Stephen going about the misdiagnosis, especially in the schools, when we've been misdiagnosed as oppositional defiant or ADHD or conduct disorder, when it's really depression because you brought the stuff from home to school, and so you're acting out like what's happening now in the streets because you have all this frustration and rage that you don't know what to do with it in that regard. So with black men, I don't look at me as your therapist. Look at me as your coach. Because a coach is supposed to, I can stand on the sidelines and yell at you because my job is to pull the best out of you.
That's good.
I can stand on the sidelines and tell you what you're doing right, but I also point out what you're doing wrong because we trust the coach in that. So I then say, well, I'm then your life coach in that. And so we have to change the narrative about how we present therapy with that.
The coaching aspect is I played sports. I played AAU. And I had to find the right coach.
There you go.
And you have to be okay with finding the right coach and telling a coach, you're not the coach
You're not
for
the
me.
coach for me.
Because it makes the difference to have the right coach.
Yes.
Because and not to say that coach ain't good, but it's not good for you. You need something special, and it's okay to go out there and look for that and go from coach to coach to really find
the one that pulls out you.
Yes.
And piggybacking on the question about how important it is to go to therapy, definitely changing the narrative of therapy. I had one supervisor tell me not all people that have gone through child abuse, sexual abuse, they don't all experience the trauma the same or come out the same. You see people that end up being depressed. You see people that don't end up being depressed. So she told me this one thing. She said, not everybody is considered damaged goods. There's always something in somebody to help them be more resilient to move on. I look at therapy just as I look at, this might not be the best analogy, but getting your car serviced. To make it run the best way, you make sure you're getting that monthly or every 10,000 mile update, checkup, just to check yourself out. We do it with our bodies when we go to the doctors. Why can't we do it with our mental health? So,
and the cost of doing repair is much more expensive than doing maintenance.
What do you say to those people who are like, I want to have therapy, I want to get help, but I can't afford it? It costs too much. What would you say to those people? Like, are there any type of programs out there? Where we can
Especially
get
now.
Mm-hmm.
Taraji got a major foundation out that she's giving out free therapy sessions. You find the therapist on her list, and she will pay for up to I want to say up to 8 sessions for free, specifically to Black men. But why not call?
Yeah.
I do sliding scales all the
Yeah.
time. The scale is this: my normal rate is $150 an hour. But if you don't have $150 to pay me, then talk to me. Litigate your case. Why you need it and what can you afford with that. So I might say, okay, then give me 60, and instead of doing a full hour session, I'll do a 30-minute session with you, and it's going to be more impactful, intensive. That means you don't have to do a lot more homework, but I will get you in.
Versus not doing anything at all.
Because I don't think people understand what the homework in therapy is.
Right.
So for me,
Uh-huh.
the homework was delving and digging and scraping and scratching and fighting myself to get down to the things that I didn't realize was the problem. And when I left that office, I was mad, I was angry, I was hurt, and that's the homework.
They did a job.
Understanding that is
Right.
walking out, when you leave the gym, you're
You
supposed to be
hurting.
sore.
Yep.
When you leave the therapist,
You're going to be mentally
you
sore.
need to feel it.
Right, God is gonna heal you from this and that and that and that, and He will, yes, He can. But that's the reason why He put people in position for a reason.
There you
There's
go.
a reason why doctors are doctors.
Right.
There's a reason why therapists are therapists, et cetera, et cetera. So trust the process and put in the work.
Said that you had all these feelings and emotions and you didn't know how to deal with them. And so I want to disclose a little bit and rant to kind of talk about what you learn from therapy. So what the homework looks like, because it's not just the pain that you feel.
Yeah.
So myself, I've been through a lot. I was abused as a child. I was bullied and made fun of. I went to the military. I was in Iraq for 15 months. I came back severely damaged, we're going to call it. And I didn't know how to do any of the things. All I knew was anger.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any other tools.
Wow.
And so when we speak of the homework, when we talk about therapy, when we talk about the coaching,
Right.
I got taught plays when I went through therapy. I taught not to hit somebody,
Right.
but there was times I did some crazy things. And I would hit somebody, I'd pull somebody out that car, I would try to fight my parents, I would do some crazy things. I've been recidivism, been arrested because of the actions of not having a way to express myself. And being able to go through therapy, it taught me stuff. It taught me emotional regulation. It taught me how to understand my feelings, how to process them. It taught me that there's more than just anger, there's more than just sad, there's more than just hurt, that there's expressions of feelings and emotions beyond what we're taught and exposed to, right?
Yeah.
It taught me how to interact with people on an interpersonal relationship level.
Right.
It taught me that when I'm in distress, when I'm angry,
Right.
what therapy teaches is not just how to manage your situations. It gives you different tools that you never knew was available so that you can process through, so that you can let go of a moment, so that you can breathe and walk past or walk away.
What we also bring to therapy, the reason why this field, because we have the field of counseling, we have the field of psychology and psychiatry, but the reason why we call this field the field of marriage and family therapy, because one thing I've learned as being a therapist, when I have an individual session with a person, I'm not just dealing with that individual.
No.
I'm dealing with everybody that's in their family, their whole history. They bring that with them into therapy. And sometimes it's not even your immediate family. It's from generations and generations. And what we're seeing now today on TV, that's because it's been generational systemic oppression.
Social, cultural,
and because of the trauma of 400 years, this is the result of it. So it's not just, my client in front of me, but it's the client's mama and their daddy and their cousins and anybody else who they ever interacted with, and they bring all that into the room, and we have to give them tools or help them and coach them on how to deal with those things that they may not even know that they're really dealing with.
I know what I call shaking family trees.
Mm-hmm.
The genogram.
Yeah, the genogram.
Because then we get to see patterns. Because it's now visible. We get to write out patterns. Okay, they called her crazy, but we didn't know that she was really bipolar.
Right.
This one. So then when you get to see patterns, you get to see why you act the way you act, because you are shaped in that. Now you get to make your own informed decision about how you want to now handle and react to those same situations. You get to now become the author of your own life, and therefore it's not dictated to you. You get to rewrite your history.
Let's talk about breaking the cycle. How do you break those cycles of the same mode? Sometimes we have to unlearn what we've learned. You know,
Learn something new.
You know, how do we do that though? For some people, it's like I want to, I don't know how. So can you give me a tool or give me some kind of insight of how I can break this cycle?
First, awareness.
Yeah.
Now you know, what are you going to do about it? And then secondly, so now you know, what are you going to do about it? Secondly, now you have to do the work.
Right.
And I always tell my clients this, there's no way over this, there's no way under this, there's no way around this, you just have to go through it. You just have to go through it. Because, and I always tell my students and my clients, this may go over your head because it goes over a lot of people's heads, how far into a forest can you go? How far in a forest can you go?
Right.
You can only go halfway because the other halfway you're no longer going in, but you're coming out. So if you stop in the middle of your emotional storm and you don't continue to process those unacknowledged emotions, if you stop in the middle of that forest, you'll never come out of it. So you have to do the work that Daniel was talking about in order to come out. That's why.
From experience, having been through drugs, been through recidivism, been through self-hatred, been through sex cycles because it made me feel good and I needed that immediate, and I wanted the interaction, I wanted those things. To move past these cycles, you really have to understand that you're being led to make choices, and as hard as it is to not make that choice, and the pain's going to be greater by not making that choice, but that pain is where you break the cycles.
Do you all feel like you're walking in your purpose? In what way do you, and explain what that
It
purpose
took me
is?
50 years to get to my purpose. Part of my purpose was getting my podcast, writing my book, and these things, because I would say speak up, speak out, and live. Because we've suffered in silence in the shadows of shame for too long. And we have to, as long as we can keep you to shut up, as long as we can keep you not to say anything, as long as we can keep you in isolation, as long as we can keep you to feel bad about yourself, then that thing controls you. But as soon as you start speaking up and speaking out, even when they tell you shut up, when they tell you to shut up, you get louder. With me, I'm living in my purpose. That's the best time I've ever had in my life.
I might be in a place right now where I never thought I would be, but all things work out together for the good. And when you're in your season, you could be in your season, but you're not in your time. Because, and I always tell people this, back at home in Rialto, my parents have plum trees. And we've had plum trees ever since I was a kid. And what happens is around March, April, May, June, the plums blossom, they bud, they grow, they're green, but it's not time to eat
It's not
yet.
time to It's gonna make you sick.
We're in the plum season, but it's not time to eat it until about late June, early July.
Right.
When they're ripe. So people out there, you can always be in your season, and we can get up, we can shout about, oh, I'm in my season, but you may be in your season, but you're not in your time. And everything is in divine timing. Every direction, like Daniel was saying, every path that we're going is continual. It's not just a destination, but it's a life path. And so I do believe that I'm in my purpose right now. May I be in a place where it feels good and may be uncertain? That's all right, because some of the best pictures are developed in the dark. So
Come on, Marty, come on!
I want to say it in a less churchy way because I got kicked out of church. And, it's so subjective. And I like how Stephen presented that, because there's been times when I was doing no good, but I was in my purpose. I want the idea of purpose, not just to be thinking about, oh, I got to get somewhere good. I got to get to where I'm in a season, even though I ain't ripe yet. This is, you go through things because that is your purpose. Yeah. And when you get into a certain season where you starting to ripen, the purpose of everything else that you went through and all the other things that you did, it brought you to the point to have this light bulb click and have this awareness. Isn't necessarily stepping into it. It's understanding your journey and the process and enjoying the process all the way through. Because even in my bad times, I had some fun. Where I'm at today with everything that I've been through, I wouldn't even know that I wanted to study an MBA. I wouldn't know that I want to help organizations, social enterprises, redevelop their business models and help them organize their programs so that they can make that difference. I wouldn't know that I wanted to work on a macro level if I hadn't been through all the things. I wouldn't even know that, listen, I was adopted and raised by white folks. I wouldn't even know that niggas had issues if it wasn't for the things that I went through.
You discovered your gifting
Yeah.
and made part your gifting drive also your purpose.
Yeah.
But our purpose is to live right
Yes.
now, and I think so many are giving up hope right now.
Not survive. You
Right,
want
there's
to
a
move out of
difference.
survival
We
and
can't
move into living. That's why I say
Right.
it's life,
Mhm.
not survival.
Really important. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like, how do we change this? Like, it's time out for just keeping the peace, just praying about it. Like, how do we change what's actually going on and make a difference? Because us as people, we're over it.
Yes.
But I think it takes platforms like what you're
Exactly.
doing.
Yes.
Everyone doing their part in their circle of influence
Yeah.
and having it catch on, even if no one else. Just like the street preachers, they bought their box and they just start proclaiming. We got to take our box and stand on whatever corners, whatever houses, whatever companies, whatever anything, and just begin to speak life into people.
All three of you all for taking the opportunity to come out and have a conversation with Van.
Conversation with Van.
Hey, y'all make this easy. I didn't have to say too much or nothing. I got all this.
No, I do. For personal, I do Mental Health Matters with Marty, and it is a podcast on all your social media streams on Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, and soon to be on iHeartRadio as well. So definitely check that out.
Again, thank you guys so much again. Remember, let nothing or nobody stop you from reaching your maximum potential. Be great. You know why? Because you are great. Peace.